Hi everyone, Meet the Maker today is with Sarah Stone. Thanks for inviting us to your studio. How did you come to be a silversmith?
Originally, I was from a fine art background. I did a fine art degree at Nottingham Trent University. Following that, a few years later, I decided to go back and actually do a night school doing silversmithing, which I absolutely loved. And that was 18 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since.
So some of it is about handling the silver, that mechanical side of it, but I guess one of your main things as well is design. That's really important to you.
Yeah, it is really important to me, and I was really lucky when I was taught at night school that one of my tutors was very into the practical making side, and another one was very much really kind of push the design element. In the gallery now, where I have my collection, the three of us actually work to a title. So we do use 4 collections a year, and we have a title for it, and it's a loose title, and then that's the starting point.
What does the theme impact? Is it the shape of the piece, the colour of the piece?
Well, my current collection, the title was Euphoria, which straight away, I like to start with the shape. It doesn't always happen, but if I've got a shape, that's a really good place to kind of start, and then I can work from that. And that's generally in my sketchbook. It's not in silver at this point. But with Euphoria, I kind of looked at the chemical symbols for dopamine and for serotonin and adrenaline, and they all kind of like hexagons with pieces coming off them. And not the correct scientific terminology for it, but the image itself was really interesting. And then I mirror imaged a little section on the dopamine, and it kind of created a diamond. And I was thinking the mix of hexagon and diamond linked together would be a really nice link on a chain. So that was a starting point for that. And then it's kind of thinking about how you can bring the kind of dopamine element and the serotonin. And I started looking to colour studies. And colour is always important because I do work a lot with semi-precious gems. They have to tie into why I need to use them. Some collections can be more silver and less of the stone setting, but this one was quite heavy in the stone setting, and that's because I kind of looked into dopamine dressing and dopamine interiors and dopamine colours that actually release it, and found semi-precious gems that were pretty similar to those colours that naturally release it when you're looking at them in your brain. And serotonin again can be yellows and oranges, sometimes into the greens. So there's, you've got ambers, you've got carnelian, citrine. So those kind of colours work really well with that.
You said you started as a fine artist, because I know there's a whole theory of colour and colour psychology that's studied in art, isn't it? To work out how people looking at certain colours can affect their mood and balance. People wearing a coloured set of jewellery, it has this sort of psychological effect that they may be unconscious of. That's just fascinating.
Yeah, and adrenaline, weirdly, I think I live on adrenaline pretty much most of the time, but I thought that'd be quite a hectic colour if you imagine it in colour form. And actually it was quite muted. So I managed to find some rainbow fluorite that had the similar muted tones, so I was able to kind of express that with a stone as well, and using the shapes that it originally inspired it. So these are spinner rings, and these are really, really popular. I wear one personally myself as well, because I'm quite a fidgeter, and it just kind of means you can sort of fidget a bit more discreetly, I guess. And they're also really good for kind of anxiety. So the middle section spins round, and these are some that I've done with, this is tourmalated quartz, and that's carnelian, so it spins around the same as these.
So what's your latest collection based on?
The one I'm working on right now, which is going to be hopefully finished by the 26th of February this year, it is called Emergence, and there was always a fairly loose title. You can kind of go your own direction with it. And my initial thoughts were kind of the emergence of spring, and you've got things like spring buds and those kind of twig shapes. I have used that kind of shape before, so I wanted to push it a bit further this time. So, and I also really wanted to use, so there's not particularly a shape straight away for this one, but I knew I wanted to use a bit of granulation. Okay, well this is some of the equipment I brought from my studio. So this is the basic bench jeweller equipment, my bench peg, my mandrels, anti-clastic razor, my hammers, especially this one that's about 16 years old. And these are different die casts that I can form with. And what I wanted to show today is just a little bit of like granulation. So this is using my scrap out of my scrap tin. Every little bit gets put in there, and then I kind of cut it up into fairly small pieces, and then I'm going to heat it, and it will all turn into little balls, which I can then use for granulation. Okay. So you just gently just circle the heat, and you'll start to see it melt, and you should see it ball. There's some over here. And you can do it with anything. I use a little bit, it's mainly sterling. I do have a little bit of Argentium silver and a little bit of fine silver, but it all melts the same. As you can see, it's now making the molten balls of silver, which can then be reused. So these are a couple of pieces. These are kind of like prototypes for the new collection. I've started to look at how I could use granulation, and I've kind of had a little practice with this. So this is using this method I've just shown, and these are fused onto a 2mm wire band and then made into a brooch. And it's had some oxidization where it's been completely turned black and then rubbed back, so you kind of get black bits in the kind of inner sections and then the silver on the outside showing through, because I think it gives more contrast. And then again, going back to my sketchbook, these illustrations with the pollen, these patterns really interested me, and I kind of thought how I could use them. And then I kind of started to look into other aspects of emergence, and I started to look into chrysalids, and also kind of butterfly and moth eggs. And the weird thing was, a book I've been looking to, this really old book, and there's no colour images, but the way they describe the colours of the eggs, I can almost straight away imagine kind of semi-precious gemstones that would work in those kind of colour palettes, and that's a good starting point for colour.
How do you source your gems?
All my gems come from UK-based suppliers. I think that's really important, because you can get them from anywhere. You can use all sorts of shopping channels to get them from anywhere in the world, and I've got no problem with doing that. But I just personally like to support small family British companies. So I love using semi-precious gemstones. I just find them just as beautiful as precious ones, and also it means my work can be that a bit more affordable using them, but I actually honestly believe they are just as beautiful. So this is my little invention of an 80s Rolodex. These are my freeform stones, or more unusual cut stones. These are in hexagon form, and these are green moss agate, which are lovely because I've got all the inclusions. It actually looks like moss. It's beautiful. I do sometimes look into the healing properties of things for certain collections, but generally it can be the stone itself that, for instance, this fluorite still in its packet. The stone itself can actually be a source of inspiration, like the pink opal, this lovely green onyx, and that can kind of inspire and guide me into kind of the pieces I'm going to make. And this is the tourmalated quartz. And then these are my smaller 6mm, 8mm, 10mm cabochon stones. So they're all all organised. So these are bullet cut carnelians. So I can generally look at this and find exactly what I want to use. But these give me a bit more inspiration than these. These are generally what I use to work with. Thank you
so much, Sarah. I've really enjoyed and been inspired listening to you speak about your work and your design work. I just never thought that so much pre-thought and design would go into work like this. It's just been absolutely wonderful speaking with you.
Oh, no, thank you. Very welcome. Thank you.